Well, it's back to the cupboard for another one of those simple and delicious 3-ingredient pasta dishes. So by the time it takes to cook the spaghetti, we'll have the sauce ready. So let's start cooking the pasta. Let's put some salt. You need some salt, otherwise the flavor of the pasta itself really never comes forth. So, long pasta, I always tell you, let it sink in, and then you begin to mix it, otherwise you'll break it. So, and let's start with our sauce. A little bit of olive oil. And so I have here garlic, of course, is a good beginning. Garlic is always, you can do it sliced, crushed, you can do it chopped. Okay, I think that's enough. And then anchovies. Anchovies are a wonderful flavoring agent, whether it's in sauces, whether it's in braisings, in roasting. I put them all over. You know, you say, ooh, anchovies. But if you put just a little bit, nobody will know, and it'll give you that much more flavor. So if you put them like that, you chop them up lightly, and you put them right in the oil, they will disintegrate and be part of the sauce. Here I have some nice Gaeta olives without the pits. And I like my olives, not the ones that have the hole where they remove the pit way before and then it sits in this briny solution and all the flavors come out. I like the pit taken out just before I cook. Of course, the little tomatoes, and I like my San Marzano plum tomatoes. I kind of like chunky tomatoes in my sauces, in some of the sauces. This doesn't have a lot of texture. Otherwise, of course, you can pass the tomatoes to a food mill, and that really gets it nice and creamy. Let's put in some olives so that we build the flavor. Oh, yeah, all of it, that's great. Capers. You like capers? I like capers. Capers are a wonderful little, sort of a wallop of flavor. The aroma is really great. So you see how simple. This, you can get it in your cupboard, your olives, your capers, your tomatoes, your anchovies, oil, pasta. It's all out of the cupboard. And those nights that you really worked hard and when you're coming home, what am I gonna have? Don't just open up plastic of something. Half an hour, you're done. A little peperoncino. Let this simmer. So, you know, you're somewhat removed by that camera from me, but the aromas in here are just fantastic. And it is the garlic, and then it's the toastiness, kind of the olives. You can almost taste the acidity of and the sweetness of the tomatoes. So it's a great Mediterranean harmony of flavors. And it's all out of a cupboard. That's the amazing part. All right, the sauce is at the perfect consistency here. Let me look at the pasta. The pasta is perfect. So, you know what I always do. I get the pasta right out. I don't rinse my pasta. I just get it right from the water into the sauce. A little bit al dente so it finishes cooking in the sauce itself. Back to the heat and let the pasta just kind of finish cooking and absorb. Just lower it a little bit, not too high. Wow. See how beautiful, how simple? It looks like you've been at the stove all day. A little bit of fresh olive oil. Just some parsley. Sometimes we are so concerned about chopping the parsley perfectly. No, coarsely chopped, fast chopping. You can do this, okay? Let me give it one twirl like this. You have such intense flavors here. The flavor of the olives, it's the anchovy, it's the garlic, it's the tomato, so you have plenty of flavors here. So I think we are ready to taste. So, just get yourself a nice tongueful. As chefs, we love our tongues. You know, it's like the extension of our fingers. Because I think some of the best tools in the kitchen are your hands. Just a little bit of sauce on top. And I wanted to taste this, you know, like I always do, and let you know what's happening. So let me taste. Delizioso. It is delicious, it is complex. The pasta is just al dente, nice acidity, a nice tinge from the pepperoncino, the olives, the capers in the background. The anchovies are somewhere there. They add complexity. An easy dish with your cupboard ingredients. We've had such great times together in Rome, Tanya and I know I can always conjure them up with my next dish, Bucatini alla matriciana, one of Rome's most famous pasta. And there is a little difference in the way this pasta cooking begins. And this is traditional way back. And that is that you begin to cook the onion when you make the sauce with a little bit of water. Okay. And you take the hot water from the water that you have ready for the pasta, and you just add the onions, and you let them simmer in there. When the water evaporates completely, we will let the oil and proceed. Now, the main ingredient of the amatriciana sauce is the bacon or the guanciale or the pancetta, whichever one you have. But traditionally in Rome, they use the guanciale. So what is the guanciale? Guancia is the cheek, so it's the cured jowl of the pork. And it is cured with salt and aged. But you can see the difference between the pancetta and the guanciale. So we have it here. Let's use the guanciale. And you cut it not too thin. You want to be able to get the feeling of the bacon under your teeth. So you can see that they roll it up in curing it, and it's easier to handle. And we have this ready. That's enough. I will just crush the garlic. Okay. Let me put the bucatini to cook. Pot of boiling water, salted, and the bucatini, you want them long. The Italians, I can't stress enough, like their pasta long. Do not break their pasta. And as the bucatini are settling in there, they will give way and you will be able to mix them. So just let them settle in. Do not crack them, do not break them. The onions are wilted. The water has evaporated, and I will add some oil now. Set it to the side, add the garlic, let that caramelize, add the guanciale, and again, I put it separately because I wanted to render rather than to mix in with the onions who have a lot of moisture. And I wanted to render the guanciale into crunchy little pieces, but not overcooked. I will add a little bit of pepperoncino. Actually, not so little, because amatriciana is gutsy. We're in Rome. A little bit of salt to the onions, because the guanciale is cured, is salted. And we let that caramelize. Now this all gets cooked in a tomato sauce. Amatriciana is tomatoes. peeled tomatoes. The amatriciana also is called una salsa al filetto di pomodoro. It is used with a filetto of pomodoro. So what is filetto? Filetto is a strip. So it is the way you cut your tomatoes. You want to cut them in a strip, just like that. So if you're using canned tomatoes, and by all means, it's very acceptable, before you add it, just cut them in a strip. The guanciale is ready. Let's add the tomato and all of its juice. We let this simmer away. By the time the bucatini are cooked, the sauce will be ready. Okay, the bucatini are done. The sauce is just right. Let me drain it well, put it right into the sauce. Now, the bucatini is a pasta that continues to move as you're cooking it, as you're eating it. That's the fun of bucatini or perciatelli. And, you know, it's really a fun pasta, and the Romans love their bucatini, perciatelli. It's another element of excitement in their plate, the spices, the pasta itself. Okay, done. Okay, so now let it just finish cooking together and absorbing the sauce. Shut off the fire, like I always tell you, and then you add your cheese. And of course, when in Rome, you add pecorino, pecorino romano, but all of Italy, the southern Italy produces pecorino, which is a sheep's milk cheese, and they enjoy it. So the pecorino is intense, you know, sheep's milk cheese is more intense than cow's milk. And now this little capricious pasta here, just let it down and give it a twist so it has that sort of nest look. Again, wait a few minutes, so if any strands will fall, they will fall. And you put it on, give it a twist again, and you can see how it's flowing. A little bit of sauce. I want a piece of guanciale there. Maybe a little more sauce. Okay. And some last pecorino. And with this zesty sauce, I chose a Montepulciano, a varietal that's fruity, that's not too complex. I think it'll complement beautifully. So let me taste it for you. Now, again, just twist your pasta like that. Pick it up, take a look. And if it's not all rolled up, you go once more. But perciatelli will continue to unfurl, if you will. So let me taste it for you. Delizioso. Another little bite. Let me taste the actual guanciale. Nice. Gutsy. Nice bite. It sort of stands up to those squirming perciatellis. Delicious dish. Quick pasta dish, capellini. But they're not that easy to handle. They're so thin that they overcook. So if you watch carefully, you will know how to cook your capellini. The water is boiling with salt. I'm going to wait a while to throw in the capellini because I want to get the sauce started. And the sauce is really, really simple. Again, this is really one of those recipes that, you know, you have nothing in the house, and yet you have a great meal in the making. A little bit of butter, and you could do it with all butter, but I like to mix with a little bit of oil. The aroma here is rosemary. Just peel the needles, the rosemary leaves, needles right off, just like that. So now they're releasing their flavor right in here. So while that's happening, let's throw in the capellini. Just throw them right in. Sort of give them an opportunity to relax in there. Do not mix them right now because they're still stiff. They'll crack on you. Now, to make the sauce here, we'll take just a little bit of the pasta water. You know, I always tell you that pasta water is very useful. Right here. And you have a sauce. Believe it or not, this is a very aromatic and flavorful sauce. I mean, you know, the aromas really are permeating the whole kitchen. The capellini are kind of loosening up. Look, they're still 1 minute more, and I will get them right out of here, and I'm gonna finish cooking them in the sauce there, and that's the secret. Let's take the sauce here. So you see that the capellini are still, they have a bend. They're not flopping. They still have a bend, and I'm gonna put them right like that into my sauce. And that's the whole secret of cooking capellini properly. Now, of course, you need to do this close to the time that you want to serve it. But you see how it's kind of running around in the pan? You see? It's not sticky, it's not really bending over. I think I'm gonna need a little bit more of the pasta water. Gonna finish cooking right in the pan. And I'm gonna leave it just like this, uncovered, so that you see how it sort of folds in. Now I have time to chop some parsley or whatever else I wanna put in there. I think a little bit of parsley. Let's continue to cook. See, the capellini are bending in. We will need a little bit more of the pasta water. So whenever you're cooking pasta, for that matter, certainly the capellini, you need to reserve quite a bit of the pasta water. But whenever you're cooking pasta, never discard all of the pasta cooking water. It's a lifesaver at the end when you're pulling together your recipe. Because when the pasta needs a little more cooking, when it is stuck together, the pasta water is what saves the day. So you see how the capellini are folding into the sauce? And I'm looking at it, you know, could I use a little bit of more condiment? Yeah, I could use a little bit more of the butter. Kind of the last minute condiment. So this is just about cooked. You can see that the pasta is cooked. It's still a little al dente. I'm still in control. I'm gonna throw the parsley right in there, and I'm gonna close the fire. I don't need the fire anymore. Leave it nice and juicy a little bit. Remember, it's still cooking. I close the fire, I'll put the cheese. So I am just about ready. Let me taste some for you. And so you can see that it's still al dente. It's not that sticky mush that sometimes capellini have a tendency to do. Let me taste them. Still have a little bit of resilience. That's what I want in the capellini. Delicious. Simple, few flavors. Rosemary, butter, cheese, and then the capellini. That kind of, they still have a little bite. And you know, I love that. A quick dish, but a great dish. And you know what? You learn how to cook. Let's begin cooking the cacio e pepe. And you let the spaghetti just sink in there. You definitely do not want to break them. Just give it a twirl, okay, and that will cook. While we just assemble the ingredients, because the ingredients need no cooking. But what you do need is a lot of pepper. And black pepper, even though Roman cooking is exemplified in a sense by peperoncino, here they really feature the black pepper. Black pepper is not indigenous to Italy, and therefore it's a special treat. And so here, cracked, but coarsely cracked. So one way of cracking it is with a little sort of saute pan, and you just pressure. You can see how it's breaking. Another way is with a good pepper mill, And you need to open up a little bit so it really grinds coarsely. Let me open a little more. And that's fine. The one important element is that you grind your pepper just before using it so that you have that freshness. The coarseness of the pepper is just the way I like it, for that matter, the way the Romans like it. When you eat this dish, you really get those kernels under your tooth and it sort of cracks. It's just wonderful. So let's check on the pasta. It is ready. And you can drain the pasta. Just don't over drain it, but you know, I like to just pull my pasta off just like that. And a little bit of water actually you need for this dish, just a little bit of the pasta water, so don't over drain. That's good. So just a little bit of the pasta water, and we'll begin to mix and add the cheese, the pecorino, in this case pecorino romano. As you're mixing it, it's making a sauce. And you want to see those speckles of cheese sort of clinging on to the spaghetti. Okay, let me just, now let me. Just a little more of this and just a little bit more of the pasta water. When you see that the pasta is really sort of sticking together, you don't want that. It still flows and you see those specks of the cheese right in there. Okay, the aroma, because you know the heat just releases all those wonderful aromas from the pecorino itself. And now slowly, you just fold in. And lots of pepper. You need to see it all speckled. And again, of course, you can adjust that. You know, this is the simplest version of this dish. And I'm twirling it because I want to collect all the cheese that's stuck to the bowl. I want it on the pasta. Wow. I'm going to taste some, put some more pepper on it. Put some more cheese, and I have myself some frascati, you know, this delightful light wine that just goes wonderful with this. Now, let me taste this for you. And pasta long, I love it. And you know that the Italians don't use a spoon to eat their long pasta. You see what I'm doing? Pick it up, you look at it, you give it another twirl, and that's it. And then you enjoy. I give you a lot of recipes, but this is one of those that I know you're going to make your own and you're going to continue making it and your family's going to love it. And it is pasta con pomodori al forno. So any pasta, I'm going to make spaghetti just because I want to make it quick and I love spaghetti, but tomatoes al forno is the sauce. So you get some tomatoes, nice ripe tomatoes, especially when they're in season. You add some salt to this, as simple as that. Breadcrumbs. Olive oil. La. And you toss it. The tomatoes are all coated with this luscious olive oil and breadcrumbs. So, just like that. The tomatoes are ready to be put in a slow oven, 300 degrees, for about a half an hour. If it takes maybe 45 minutes, depends. Let them dry and let the bread toast on them. They should look something like this. Let's begin with the sauce. Oil. So how do you gauge olive oil? Olive oil is gauged by its oleic acidity. If it's under 1%, it's extra virgin. If it's from 1 to 3%, it's virgin olive oil. And thereafter is just plain olive oil, and you pay accordingly. The oleic acid, what it means is that it contains impurities such as tannins or pulp of the olive. So the extra virgin is purer, and it's more of the real flavor of that, and you're paying more for that. So if you're paying a nice amount for that extra virgin olive oil. You don't want to really use that olive oil all over. You want to use it at the end in important places, like right now, because the ingredients that you have is olive oil, garlic, and the tomatoes, and we have our sauce. A little peperoncino. Okay. And now we're gonna hear a little shh. Be careful. Okay. And this is what makes the sauce, the pasta water. We'll shred in some basil. Just like that. Okay. Okay, the pasta is cooked. I'm going to finish cooking it right in here a little bit so that the pasta absorbs the flavor, and then we'll add the tomatoes. I just want to toss them in the last minute so you get the sweetness of that roasted tomato with those kind of crunchy breadcrumbs. Let me begin to collect the tomatoes. And you see how underneath they're kind of toasted? Absolutely delicious. Put it right in there. Delizioso. In Southern Italy, they use a lot of ricotta salata. This is ricotta, you know, that after they make cheese, they have those curds that look like cottage cheese ricotta. Well, they take those curds, they put them to drain. With a little bit of salt, they press them into forms, and they dry. So it's not an aged cheese, but it's sort of compressed and salted ricotta. And that goes on the top as the last. A little formaggio. When you add cheese to your pasta, make sure that the water, that the heat is off. I think I'm gonna have a little tasting here. My mouth is already watering. Where's my vino? Aglianico del Volture is an indigenous varietal of this wine in Basilicata, and really is delicious. And you can just imagine perfectly well with this kind of hearty ricotta salata, grated in shreds on top. Perfetto. Gonna eat quick, but I wanted to let you know how delicious this is. Che buono. Pot full of pasta, some good red wine from Basilicata, so let's go, come. Tutti a tavola a mangiare. Salute.